How we doing, everybody? Welcome back to the Mash and Drum Whiskey Room. I'm Jason C, and if you're a subscriber, really glad to see you here back again. If you're not, if it's your first time here, you're looking for the latest in whiskey and bourbon news and reviews, you have found the right channel. So hit that subscribe button below and that bell notification so you know when I'm putting out a new video. So the first batch of Booker's bourbon is here for 2019, and it is called Teresa's batch. Let's check it out. So for those of you that don't know, Booker Noe is a 6th generation master distiller who grew up at a distillery in the heart of Kentucky. He was basically born into bourbon, and while others were happy to drink bourbon at age 21, he was really excited to start making the stuff. So in 1992, Booker introduced the world to small batch bourbon. He actually coined the term small batch, and with it came his own signature bourbon, Booker's, inspired by a 200-year-old tradition. Booker's is bottled uncut and unfiltered. So that brings us to today's review for Teresa's batch, the first release in 2019, which is an ode to Teresa Wittemer, a distillery employee Booker Noe himself hired on the spot after a quick 15-minute interview more than 30 years ago. She has been a part of the Beam Distillery family ever since, working directly on Booker's bourbon to help ensure every release is up to Booker's standards. Now, with a background as a medical technician, Teresa puts her science background to good use in Claremont, Kentucky. She's worked in the lab and in quality control her whole career, specifically helping mingle barrel samples together to select the best Booker's batches for bottling. So as I mentioned, here's Teresa's batch, and this is the first Booker's bourbon batch released for 2019. Teresa Wittemer continues to help select batches of bourbon for Booker's son, current master distiller Fred Noe. Now, this batch is aged for 6 years, 3 months, and 1 day. It's bottled at 125.9 proof and carries an MSRP around $70 to $75, but I have seen this bottle going up in some areas as well. So let's get a pour. There we go. Cork is always pretty tight in Booker's. All right. All right, guys, so as you can see, I've taken about 2 pours from this bottle. This is my third. My first impressions were good, but I'm hoping the air added a bit more complexity to it. So let's find out. First, we're going to go to the color here real quick. And as always in a Booker's, you get this really beautiful dark chestnut color, maybe a little of a hint of a reddish hue to it as well. It's a really nice whiskey. It's gonna coat that glass pretty well with that uncut, unfiltered character to it. It's always got a very consistent, really nice color for a Booker. So let's get into the nose and see what we get. Here we go. It's really, really sweet on the nose, actually. You are getting an alcohol punch like you would on a Booker's. This is really just all brown sugar and oak, really, just right off the front on the top of the nose here. There's definitely some caramels in there. Deep, dark, rich caramel. Try to open it up here a little bit more. Yeah, this is all just vanilla oak on the nose. Nothing really kind of sticking out. You go in a little bit deeper, you start getting more of a that roasted peanut characteristic to it. There's a slight smokiness to it as well, which I have gotten a little bit on some of the last year's Booker's releases. There's a little bit of a smokiness there. A lot of vanilla extract in there too. Really deep, rich vanilla as well. All right. Really good on the nose, very typical Booker's type flavor profile on the nose. So let's see what we got on the palate. Cheers, here we go. Wow, that vanilla extract really came to the forefront. A lot of brown sugar there, vanilla, oak, all in that first sip. You get it right up front. Booker's really always packs a really good punch when it comes to flavor. Let's go in for the second sip. Here we go. Super peanutty. My goodness. This is like peanut brittle with caramel drizzled on top. I mean, Jim Beam does have a typical peanutty flavor profile to it, and it is coming through in spades here in this glass. Let's go for one more sip. Cheers. Yeah, still very peanutty, caramel, There's a real, as you keep sipping on it, you get more of that vanilla extract coming through. It's really, really good. Definitely the proof is sticking out. You're getting that peppery finish like you do on a Booker's. But it's just kind of staying within that typical Beam flavor profile, really giving you that peanut. There is a slight hint of smokiness there that might be differentiating it from typical Beam flavor profile there. Let me go for another sip here. Here we go. Yeah, the finish on this is like your typical Booker's. It's warm, it's lingering, really gives you a nice Kentucky hug there, really kind of warms you up inside. It's sweet, it's spicy there on the palate, especially on the end. It's just a really good Booker's, but there's nothing that's, I guess, kind of differentiating it enough for me to kind of put it over the top of, you know, some other Booker's that I've had in the past. Let me go for one more sip here. Cheers. This is just unmistakably Booker's peanut, crunchy peanut brittle, caramel, vanilla extract. Definitely has a smokiness to it, which is interesting. Yeah, but I mean, there's, you know, it's a really good Booker's bottle. I think Booker's and Jim Beam purists will really like this one. All right, guys, so what I want to do is compare Teresa's batch to Kathleen's batch, which was also the first release from last year. Kathleen's batch comes in at 127.4 proof. This was aged 6 years, 3 months, and 14 days old. This batch is also named in honor of Kathleen D. Benedetto, who was the former brand manager during the launch of the Beam small batch bourbon collection in the early 1990s. All right, so it is Teresa versus Kathleen. Let's see what we get on the nose when we compare the two. Yeah, so right off the bat, the noses on these are completely different. The Kathleen's batch just has a rounder, more fruit-forward aspect to it. It's got all that peanut and that caramel, that vanilla that you love in a Booker's, but there's an extra level of flavor there. Yeah, I mean, this is just pure peanut brittle. Maybe a little bit of maple is coming through there too. But the Kathleen's batch on the nose just has another layer of flavor. Let's go to the palate. Here we go. Cheers. Yeah, that Kathleen's batch, it just seems richer. It seems darker, deeper. But then it has that extra layer of that fruity characteristic to it, which I'm not getting on this one. Let's go in for this one real quick. Here we go. Yeah, so this is a really good bottle of Booker's. It's sweet. It's got all the great Jim Beam flavors that you love. But if I'm going to drop $70, $80, upwards of $90 to $100 on a bottle of Booker's, I want to differentiate itself a little bit more because I feel like I can get this flavor profile in a bottle of Knob Creek single barrel. You know, it comes in at 120 proof. It's not much less than what's in here. But at least like in Kathleen's batch, you have a differentiator there. There's a fruitiness characteristic. There's a more deeper, darker, richer type of flavor profile to it. This is just coming through a little bit. It's just lacking something that's not equating itself to Kathleen's batch here. Yeah, the sweetness, the peanut forward, the caramel, that vanilla, and then that extra layer of a cherry or a blackberry on there. That's what differentiates it. I'm not getting a differentiator in here. So, I mean, if you just like straightforward Jim Beam, peanut, caramel, vanilla type flavors, then you'll probably really enjoy this bottle. But, you know, why drop the money on this when you could probably get it in a typical bottle of Knob Creek single barrel, especially if you find a store pick somewhere. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this review for Teresa's batch. It was the first release of Booker's for 2019. Like I mentioned, it's got great flavor in here, but I just don't feel like it's differentiating itself enough for me from Knob Creek single barrel to spend the extra $40 to $50 like I could get, like I found in the Kathleen's batch, which had, you know, a really nice fruitiness characteristic to it. So with that, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram and find me on Twitter. Let me know if you've had this batch, what you think of it. And as I always say, it is not about the whiskey, it is the people you share it with. So cheers, everyone, and I'll see you next time.